أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، وصلى الله على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون. قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. And certainly apostles before you were mocked at, but that which they mocked at encompassed the scoffers among them. Say, travel in the land and see what was the end of the rejectors. In continuation of some of the messages in these ayat of Surah Al-An'am, we have been talking about some issues in Tawheed and Nubuwwat and Risalat. And briefly we'll move to some issues related to Akhirat and Qiyamah and Ma'ad. And these are the three primary beliefs that all Muslims share. Where we came from, where we are heading after this life, and what is the path that leads to salvation. Human beings are concerned about how they live their lives, because they have to first determine what constitutes, what amounts to success. What is success? So they live their life to achieve that sort of success. Most of us become overly concerned with the success in this life because we are surrounded by this physical world. And the life of this world, as in the hadith, is like the water, the ocean water. You know, the more you drink, the more thirsty you get, until it kills you, takes your life. It doesn't quench your thirst, takes your life. But everyone is struggling. Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbik kadhan famulaqi. O human being, you are struggling towards your Lord. Kadhan, tiring yourself, facing hardships until you will meet your Lord. So in any case we will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just want to see how we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We meet the rahmat of Allah or the wrath of Allah. Although the wrath of Allah is also His rahmat, although it appears in the form of an azab, but even that is a manifestation of His rahmat for His creation. Recite salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
For example, the adab or the punishment or the tragic end of the oppressors in this dunya is the rahmat of Allah for the mazlumeen and oppressed people, at least. Once this is one meaning, at least we all can understand. Right? The hukum of qisas for a criminal is rahmat, the least for the, at least for the person whose money has been stolen or his life has been taken, right? And it's also rahmat for the person, so he doesn't get worse than this. Save him from further degradation, further azab, save him from getting worse. And rahmat for the society when a criminal is punished. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In retribution, in punishment, there is life for you, oh those who reflect. Anyway, Tawheed, these discussions are long. For any extended discussion, every person has one's own questions. So I don't try to go deep into one subject too much, because for everyone it's different. Your question is not the same as the other person. But in a general sense, if you want just to look at, there are things out there that we need to look at. And for Nubuwwat and Risalat, some of that we'll share tonight as well, but inshallah, but it also leads us to the issues of Akhirat. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings people back to life. Not the philosophy of the actual how it happened, Allah knows, but the possibility of it. Has it ever happened before that it may happen again? But briefly, just for the sake of some very short logical proof of resurrection or Qiyamah, that there should be somewhere after this dunya. Another salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So, in 2 points. First point is, do we have a ruh inside us or not? This is very important. If we can establish that there is a metaphysical, a ruh, which is spiritual being inside our body, or related to our body, or connected to our body, or encompassing our body, some sort of non-physical entity, which when I say I am referring to that personality of me, not my body, right? If we can establish that there is spirit inside a body has a spirit, then the second point would be that, okay, the body dies, what happens to the spirit? It becomes easy. Okay, the body is dead, we just saw it perish in the ground, after a few years there's nothing left, and there may be bones, and another 50 years, 100 years later there's not even nothing there. In many cases, right? So the question will be that, okay, so we established the fact that the body is dead, but we could not establish that the ruh, the spirit has died. So there must be some continuation of the life of the spirit, which is the real life of a person, right? How do we prove the first point, that there should be a spirit or a person has a spirit? There are many proofs, philosophical proofs, and it'll take a long time to go over those. In some certain cases, you present an argument, someone may have another question in one's mind. If this, then what about that? So we don't want to go too much into that. But there's some general observations that most of us, or all of us, will have experienced. That as our age advances, as we get older, our body gets weaker, right? So there's a peak point in life, and then, after 40, 50 years, some people say, well, I'm 60, but I feel like 30 years old. So that's, mashallah, very good. But, at some point, finally, this is over the edge. Now it's body gets weaker by the passing of the years and months, and this is a general observation. Unlike the progression or the growth of the mind does not get weaker as we grow older. Our intellect does not get weaker and slower, right? Now it's possible that there's some neurological condition or some accident or trauma. I'm not talking about that. Generally speaking, people, their ability to think, right? Process information, come up with ideas, creativity, philosophy, general, philosophic understanding of this world, and their thoughts, their maturity, it all grows, continues to grow, the more they advance. Right? We've seen people, I've personally met, for example, Ayatollah Al-Zahra Islamic. He was above 100 years old when I personally had a chance to see him. And he was obviously looking very elderly and old, and his voice was weak, but there was a translator, and some of us were trying hard to pay attention, and he was just fine. Intellectually speaking, he was just fine. Reading the Ash'ar of Hafiz, and he was reading the verses of Quran, even talking about the politics of his time and all of that. He was, mashallah, he was just fine. Most of our great ulama have done some of their best works at the advanced age. Same applies to scientists, right? Politicians, lawyers, writers, poets, all of these people, In any career you go that involves thinking, right? Is there a career without thinking? Maybe there is. But in any case, as your age gets more and more, your mind gets stronger while your body gets weaker. So the track is different. So the soul or the spirit of a person does not follow the growth of the body. There's a different direction to it. And the ability for a human being to think, process ideas they're not physical ideas. That cannot be like shown in the form of an object. There are all these thoughts in science, philosophy, logic, all sciences. Stephen Hawking is a famous scientist and philosopher. He has many, ideas about universe and this and that. He cannot even move, but he has written so much, and he continues to write and express himself. So the spirit is something different from the body. Its experience is different, the nature of its experiences is different. And body dies, there is no argument, there's no proof that the spirit also dies. So body being made of cells and molecules, right? It is of the nature of this rest of this natural world. When a person dies, we bury him in the ground, goes back to where it came from, But the spirit was never from this physical world. And for those who try to compare human beings with other animals, like monkeys and other things, they're fundamentally mistaken. Because a physical thing does not have. How can it become into something it never had? Something that came from outside, who gave it to it? Between a child who is born normally, right, learns to speak and learns to talk and all of that, and God forbid a child who is born without the ability to think. So what is the difference between them? The human being is that side of me which is not physical. When I say a person whose body is completely paralyzed also thinks the same way, And so spirit is really something that Allah has given to human beings, the way our spirit is. No other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this sort of spirit, would have this sort of ability to understand things, ability to argue and prove something, understand arguments of other people, right? Other beings are not able to do that. If you can repeat a word for a dog, keep repeating that word and point to something or show something, probably the animal will figure out there's something to do with this sound and that object. That's the most that an animal can learn. The animal can never make judgments about or make sentences and phrases and propositions, right? I say, okay, prove to me this car is mine or yours. You cannot do that, right? So there's something fundamentally different from how we process our thoughts. So, spirit is alive. Where does it go after death? There has to be a world. There has to be a place where the spirit goes. Ruh travels into a different. There must be a world. What is the nature of this world? That you cannot understand by just your guesswork. No. For that you need a different channel of information. Our information source, channels of information, our five senses, right, or our ability to think, does not lead us to understand what happens after our death. We cannot figure that out. Yeah. I had a author, he said he compiled a book. He was a chaplain. He had interviewed many patients who had like near-death kind of experiences. Died and the soul came back to their body. He collected 260 cases and they compiled into a book. Yeah, okay, so somebody goes to the other side and comes back and relates to you, this is what I saw. Well, this is the most you can get if somebody comes back. So, but that you cannot go there and find out. You cannot have the experience of that person transferred into your mind. You cannot do that. That person's experience is only his, not transferable experience. One person dies, the experience of this person's death is totally his or her own experience. It cannot be transferred to another person, that a person can experience, say, okay, let's die together. Even if two people die together, they will not be in the same place after they die. They're not going to experience the same thing. So, this much about this fact that there is a spirit and that there is an afterlife. But how do we know about it? Through wahi, revelation. So one side of that could be, is it possible that person who dies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him life again, it becomes alive again? When we will be raised in the other life, it will also be a physical life. Right? After a person dies, his body, perishes in the ground, is brought up again. As in the discussions of Raj'at, which is a Shia belief, rooted in Quran and ahadith of Prophet Muhammad and Ahlul Bayt Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So this will be before Qiyamah. Raj'at is before Qiyamah. A mu'min who lived his life learning about the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt and committing oneself to their values, committing himself or herself to their goals and ideals, struggling for the same goals and objectives that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam struggled, right? So that's one group in this dunya. Another group in this dunya is the exact opposite of this, who is fighting Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, fighting the true word of Allah, fighting the Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And I'm not necessarily talking about non-Muslims, so-called outside. Technically, many Muslims are doing the same thing, like all these terrorist gangs and groups, doing the same thing. A person who is amalan, practically, rebelling against Allah, the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, is on the other end. So you have mahdul iman and mahdul kufr. In the ahadith we have this terminology, mahdul iman. These are the true groups that will be raised in Raj'at, in this dunya, before Qiyamah. All the people in the middle, their hisab is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't know, Allah decides, He is Adil, Hakim, Rahman, Rahim. This is not our business anyway. But these two groups, right, will come back, according to many collections and this. That's another. Raj'at is among the, first of all, signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Qiyamah. It is also among the mu'jizat of Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that because just like Isa alayhi salam with the izn of Allah, he gave life to the dead. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam with the izn of Allah subhanahu, they'll give life to those who are mahdul iman and mahda or mahdul kufr and mahda, right? Both of these will come back to life by the order of Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Salawat. Our faith for so long has lived through very difficult times. Lot of oppression, right? Persecution, imprisonments, Karbala, so many things happened in history that many of the facts in our books had not been properly studied. They had been studied early also, but the research could not be done as much as it required. Now, as the awareness grows, many of these facts that we find in our books are now being contemplated and studied. So, as we get more information, we should not be surprised. Because when a group of people does not have any voice, what happens to that group? Its knowledge base remains restricted to a few people, right? But when you have access to, resources and media, just I think 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the channels, Shia channels in Arabic and Farsi and English started coming in the Middle East. It was unheard of. In history, never, Shia faith, its message would go across one city to another on some form of media. Not allowed. The Wahhabi and Salafi control on the media did not allow Shia faith to come out. It took, after the revolution in Islamic Republic, it took another 15, 20 years for message to come out of its boundaries, borders, on the airwaves and be seen on TV screens in the Middle East, which was a huge development. Which was one of the reasons why the other side, whatever, they rallied all these forces against the revolution. Media is so powerful. By media, I mean just in a general sense. Media is so important that it was one of the reasons why Sayyid al-Shuhada Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam rose up against Yazid. You cannot have media in your hand without having political power. You have to have a power in your hands. Whoever has power has media. Whatever form of media. In early times there was something else. Now it is television, internet, whatever, everything else. So Yazid was using the media of his time to spread lies against Imam Ali alayhi salam, against Ahlul Bayt, which was very painful to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. I mean, apart from the fact that it was misleading and their primary pain was that this is misleading the masses and what the damage that it is doing to people as human beings, that without being cultivated as human beings through knowledge and taqwa, they are being herded like a sheep, like animals. They are being treated like, prisoners or slaves. But the fact that instead of hearing the facts, which is the fazail of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they were hearing lies, right, about Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and Ahlul Bayt. They were trying to discredit Ahlul Bayt. The fazail of Amir al-Mu'mineen were given to other people. The titles like Farooq and Siddiq, they were titles the Prophet gave to Molana Ali alayhi salam. Even the word Khalifa, Anta ya akhi wa wasiyi wa khalifati min ba'di, right? And Quran also uses "O Dawood, I appointed you Khalifa on earth. Adam, you are my Khalifa on earth." So the Khalifa is a human being that embodies the qualities of Dawood and Adam and Ibrahim and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for a holy prophet to speak in the language of Quran, which he always did, to say that, "Oh Ali, you are my Khalifa," he's referring to the meaning that in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks and uses the word. But they steal it from him. They steal this word. This are using for these people who by force, right, sat on the member of the holy prophet. The prophet said, "I saw in my dream that monkeys are jumping on my pulpit." You know. And Quran refers to that in certain places. So you see, this media was so important, and for a human being to live in a society without any voice, it is not a prescription of Islam. For us to live even in the United States, right, and to see ourselves, to view ourselves as invisible citizens of this country is not an option. We had 2-3 years ago, I was in Atlanta. We had a Yom al-Quds protest, the year when the bombing was going on in Gaza. So a lot of people came out against Israel. So there were protests, both sides of the streets. There's the CNN head office, main office over there, Atlanta. So before we got there, the word had got out, so they had reached there first. The Zionists, holding the Israeli flags. We had invited 2 or 3 rabbis on our side. That became very interesting. Okay, so all these Israelis or Jewish people, whatever you call them, were on the other side chanting in support of Israel and against whatever they saw us as, you know. So we got there. So first this exchange started. There was 7 things, these people started chanting back. So this was a kind of a waste of time. We didn't come here to do this. Then people realized, what are we doing? Move away from these people, let them do, their time is over anyways, we have permission. Okay, then the rabbis showed up on our side. Now, they were shocked to see rabbis. Rabbis should be on that side of the street. So some of them crossed the street and came to our side to interview these rabbis. Why are you here? Right? Very interesting. Some of them had cameras, some of them had some audio, recording devices. So at night, there was an interfaith program at the masjid. So some of those in the audience who were from the other side, they showed up, they also came to the masjid. From where they were chanting all this stuff against us to attending the interfaith event at night in the masjid. Now they had brought their cameras, but we asked them, please don't record anything. Because some people, when they record something, they can do whatever they want with it. So if you have event like this, you must be very careful. I encourage you to have events like that. But you record yourself. Because someone can take it and play with it. Anyway, so the rabbi, he was obviously, we agreed on a lot of issues. But he made a comment, and he was condemning what Israel was doing, obviously, that they exploited and misrepresented the Jewish faith and concocted this idea of a Jewish state by occupying Palestinian lands and causing so much, suffering, human suffering. And then he said that Jewish people were supposed to wait for their Savior. They are not supposed to establish any government till the arrival of the Savior or Messiah. Until the arrival of the Messiah, the Jewish people are supposed to be wandering around in the world, waiting till He comes. Now, this was his viewpoint. And that the Zionist state, they started this idea that Jews needs a place to live, and where would they go? So they took that land which did not belong to them, obviously. But I made an observation after these comments. I said, if with your permission, with all due respect, I said there is something about human beings that they don't want to live invisible. Everyone wants to have a voice. Everyone wants to have a political influence in where you live. You cannot be happy if you are powerless. Your human potential, right, gets arrested, inhibited. It inhibits your human potential if you don't have any voice, any influence in society. You cannot influence any legislation around you. They make laws for you, and you are at the receiving end of everything. This is prescription. This sort of an attitude, this sort of existence in a life, in a society, right, is not as an advantage for the person at all. It's not in the interest of any human being. And I said that because you did not provide any response, any answer to this genuine human desire to have a voice, to live respectively in the society they are living in. So people were craving to have some voice. They were being kicked around from one country to another. And when these Zionists came around and said, hey, we have a country for you, they were hungry to have a place, so they didn't even care whose land is it. Did you spend over there? Furnished house, food on the table, pictures on the walls, people kicked out at the point of a gun. They were running away. Some people were killed, many ran away, and they just came and took control of these houses. And nobody had asked the question, well, this house is all this warm food on the table, who does it belong to? No, it belongs to me. So easy to exploit people. Old Testament, I don't know which biblical something, justify oppression, zulm. And then if you all had come together and thought about, this is why when a nation, right, abandons philosophy, abandons rational thinking, abandons to reason properly. It just goes by the black and white on a paper. Does not think, does not have leaders who are visionaries, who look at the needs of the people. The result is that they are hijacked. The whole nation is hijacked. When people don't come together and use their mind, God-given senses and abilities to see what is our need right now, what do we need to do? If we don't do that, then there'll be some people whose job is to perform, whose job is to entertain. And they're good at it. And people love it. People enjoy entertainment. Because you're not providing them what they need. The result is that people who use this craving to give a false sense of satisfaction, as if they think that we are being given something we need, which is nothing actually. It's just an exercise of some kind of entertainment. Like some speakers who have never studied Islam, they come on the stage, right? They've not properly gone through training, properly studied, for example, languages and Islamic sciences and history and tafsir and different things. They just train themselves, their voice, train how to deliver, oratory and the public speaking, and they perform, and people love it, enjoy it. And they don't even know the needs of the people. They have no vision, they have no solutions for their problems. And they don't even have a desire to provide any guidance or leadership to the people. They're just good at one thing, performing well on the stage. Happens. And that's what media is used for nowadays. Media is used to entertain the people, give them a false sense of, of joy, There's something good happening. We have to be very careful about this. This mimbar is an amanat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Last night I was talking about Prophet Yahya alayhi salam. And I mentioned that after Prophet Yahya was killed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took revenge for his blood. There are many meaningful hadiths on this subject from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. There's Prophet Irmiya or Uzair. Both names have come in history. Allah communicates with this prophet and tells him to tell the rabbis who were in charge of the Jewish faith in Jerusalem, right? To tell them that the message of God, that if there is a land whose plantation is corrupt, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them another plantation which is worse than that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes this nation. So they don't understand what. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was warning these rabbis that their job is to correct the people. If they don't correct the people, there's a wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming their way very soon. They did not get the message. Instead, they started arguing with the Prophet Uzair. They started arguing with him. How can Allah punish us? What is the fault of children and women and elderly? Why would Allah punish? So they said, go and ask your God, why would Allah punish us? So the Prophet Irmiya or Uzair, he came back and for 7 days he fasted to ask Allah this question that their rabbis had asked, why would Allah, what is the fault of the children to be punished for the actions of the grown-ups? So he tried 7 days of fasting, he did not receive a revelation. Another 7 days, no revelation. Third time, 7 days he fasted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, don't worry about it. Because their time has come. The time has come now. Because it's like the story of the cow in Surah Baqarah, that they have been asked to slaughter a cow. Instead they ask, what is the color of the cow? What does it look like? Describe the cow to us. Back and forth, 3-4 times. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be happy if they had just slaughtered any cow. But they kept asking, because they did not want to take the responsibility to do that thing. They were just assigned a job to slaughter a cow, right? They did not do that. In this case also the same way. So the Prophet just rested for a little bit and an ant got on his foot and started biting his foot, the Prophet, So he couldn't catch the ants, so he just removed, and a lot of ants were moved away, shoved away, And he realized this is the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When certain people who are responsible, they don't perform their job well, all of the people are affected because of the fault of a few people. It happens like that. We had flood in Houston. Why hurricane came? Why was there flooding? Why such a big storm? We don't know. But must have been something to do with the actions of people. All calamities have to do with actions of people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either wants to wake the people up, right? Or give them a chance to correct their ways. Or at times when someone is among the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate their levels. It's possible. Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Karbala, he had not done anything wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to elevate his rank. For those other people who did not support Imam Hussain alayhi salam, they got punished in this dunya after the battle of Karbala, and in Akhirat as well. They will be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the crime they committed. and the crime was to kill Imam Hussain alayhi salam, support the killers of Imam Hussain alayhi salam physically, or just be happy about it and giving a silent approval to those people who had committed those atrocities against Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So, now history record, this is in the Old Testament as well. Bukht Nasr. Nebuchadnezzar is that word in the Old Testament. This person, right, were very distorted personality. He attacked Jerusalem and he got to the heart of the city and he saw that blood is coming out of the ground. He said, what is this blood? Like a fountain of blood, imagine, coming out from sand, from the ground. People said a prophet of Allah was killed at this place many years ago. And since that time, blood continues to come out, gush out of the ground. They keep putting sand on it, but it does not stop. So this guy, this Nebuchadnezzar, he says, I'm going to kill Bani Israel, kill and kill and kill until this blood stops coming out of the ground. He was not doing it for any divine or glory. He's just a very distorted, complicated kind of a person. He just came to his mind, this is what he should be doing. And he killed 70,000 people. Until he got to villages, he would completely destroy the whole village and slaughter everyone in that village. In Jerusalem, there was a complete massacre of everybody on their homes, in their homes, and the streets. Everybody was killed. Until he has anyone left, they said, an old woman in this place. He said, bring her over here. He beheaded her. Then the blood stopped. Whose blood was this, I ask you? That blood was the blood of Yahya ibn Zakaria. Right. Who was responsible to kill Yahya, the king, and those people around him, and those women of such character, right? But everybody became responsible for that because they all remained quiet and they did not object to the killing of Yahya ibn Zakaria, who was an innocent soul, had done nothing wrong except objecting to something that was unlawful and obscene anyway. A society in which Amr bil Ma'ruf is not done and people don't have the courage to come out. And this is the message of Imam Hussain. I'm wrapping up. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he was leaving, إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ أُرِيدُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَنْهَى عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. I come out of Medina to bring reform, bring change in the nation of my grandfather, the nation that my grandfather established, that nation. أُرِيدُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. I want to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. وَأَسِيرُ بِسِيرَةِ أَبِي وَأَخِي جَدِّي وَأَبِي وَأَخِي. And live my life according to the sirat and sunnat of my grandfather Rasulullah, my father Ali al-Murtaza, and my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Obviously, Amr bil Ma'ruf, for those of you who are not familiar with this term in Arabic, Amr bil Ma'ruf, it means enjoin the good. Someone homeless, right? You see, you don't have the money or resources, you ask somebody to go and help. Help this person. You see someone doing something wrong, you stop that. Ask the person to stop it. This is a duty of every human being. Now there's some people who say, mind your own business. No. Everybody does Amr bil Ma'ruf according to their own ways. In this society also, if someone starts bugging another person, somebody shows up and says, why are you doing this? They made videos of that, somebody mistreating somebody or basically racist with another person or Muslim or somebody of colored skin. They say, why are you doing this? People in their own ways, in different levels, they do Amr al-Ma'ruf, Nahy al-Munkar. But the interesting fact is that in the story of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he is going out against Yazid knowing that he will be killed and there will be a jihad involved in this whole struggle. But he's not using the word jihad, he's using the word amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. That means there is a small degree of amr bil ma'ruf where someone is, for example, being rude to another person, you say, brother, don't do this. And there's an extreme, the high degree of amr bil ma'ruf, which is when you stand up with your sword and you defend, physically fight, kill or get killed. Imam Hussain calls this amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar as well. See the vocabulary of Islam. Imam Hussein's vocabulary involves different stages of amr bil ma'ruf. The society is responsible. Everyone is responsible. But the more influence you have, the more responsibility on your shoulders. The more financially, politically, socially, you are capable of doing something, the responsibility that falls on your shoulders is more. Right? You can't just take credit for something you have. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything happens here for a purpose. Everything. If I study hard and become rich, another person studies hard, does not become rich, in both cases there is wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing happened by chance. And I cannot say it happened because I worked hard. Well, he worked hard too, he did not. I take credit for it. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually blessed you because He gave it to you as an amanat, so that you will use it. Because He saw you capable that if you were given this, you could do that if you wanted to. Now if you don't, become responsible. One person has something but doesn't use it. Imam Khomeini did not have money, but what he has, he used it in defense of Islam. He gave a speech in Faizia. They came and after they destroyed and killed so many ulama over there, he came out against the government, condemned the actions of the government. He had no guards, no police, no army, nothing. Came home, some students were concerned his house will be attacked. He said, go home. I don't need your protection. Look at the tawakkul and the trust of this faqih, Jami' al-Shara'id, Wali al-Faqih of his time, that he was doing his responsibility. Just like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, just like Maula Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is a lesson for our times, that if we want to live as followers of Maula Ali alayhi salam, we should also reflect some of the qualities of our Imam. Please say salawat. If we understand these thoughts, internalize them, then we will not remain confused in our life. If we do not fully understand these thoughts and fully accept these thoughts, the result will be constantly changing sides all our life, zigzagging. One day we are with this party, another day we are with this party, because we never made up our mind on what is right. Because when we try to make up our mind, we see, oh, this poses risks for me. This poses risks for me. I may be questioned for this. Well, learn how to answer the questions. As simple as that. But to allow yourself, after having yaqeen, causing doubts and shak, this is a disease. Shak in such matters is a disease. Why shak happens? Because of love of dunya. That's it. See the personality of Habib ibn Mazahir. Imam Hussain, 6th Muharram comes. Zainab is watching these armies, cavalry and infantry in 5,000, 6,000, 4,000, 7,000 arriving. She comes to her brother and says, brother, you don't have anyone you could invite. Imam Hussain Islam had tried before, but now he had not received any response. From the tribe of Bani Asad, some people tried to join, didn't work. Imam Hussain Islam wrote a letter to Habib ibn Mazahir, a person who is 75 years old. He was a child and he saw Rasulullah, then he fought in the battles in Islam, then he fought alongside Amir al-Mu'minin, Jamal and Safir and Arawa. He was a student of Amir al-Mu'mineen, recorded traditions. It is said that when he was a child, Rasulullah was passing with his companions on the street one day, and he saw this Habib when he was a child, and he sat down next to his child, took this child in his lap, showing him affection. His companions were surprised, said, "What is about this child? You are showing so much love for this child." He said, "One day I saw this child playing with Hussein, and I saw that he was picking up the dust under the feet of Hussein and putting it on his head and touching his eyelids with it." From that day I started loving this child so much. And I know that one day this child will be with my grandson and will give his life in this love of my child. Habib got the letter. Now, a person in his age, and Habib is the person who has memorized Quran. Imam Hussein said Habib used to finish Quran every night. In his nightly prayers, he used to finish the whole of Quran every night. For asking a 75 years old person, obviously he has fought so many wars, maybe he has injuries and wounds on his body, we don't know. He doesn't see himself as making a lot of difference in the battle. But the trust that Imam Hussein min Hussein ibn Ali ila Habib ibn Mazahir rajul faqih, right? This is the description. Imam Hussein said, he said, "Habib, ana ghareeb. I am surrounded by enemies. I am in Karbala. Come fast to me. Come to me fast." Habib comes out of his house into the marketplace. Now he is thinking what is happening in the city right now. So everyone is preparing his swords and lances and spears and knives and daggers, preparing their shields and their armors and their horses, and preparing their horses to run, and everything is going on, training going on all over this. What is going on? He said, he pretended as if he didn't know why they were preparing. They said, "We are preparing because of Khariji." Khariji is like a person who is given Islam up, who is rebelled against Islam. They're referring to Imam Hussein al-Islam. He sat in a corner and started crying. That what has become of these people that are using such words for Hussein ibn Ali? Then he starts looking around. He says, "There's no one who could come with me. Hussein has called me." And he reaches a shop where he sees Muslim ibn Awsaja coming to the shop. And Imam Hussein comes close to Muslim. He said, "Muslim, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm buying some hair color for my beard." He was same age. Muslim now also in his 70s, or perhaps even more, older than Habib. Habib says, "This will not work for you. Come with me." He takes him into his house. He says, "Muslim, I know a way to color your beard. That color will never go away. That color will always stay forever." And he shows him the letter of Hussein. He said, "Muslim, my master Hussein has called us to Karbala, called me to Karbala. And it is time that you come with me to our Imam." He said, "Habib, how can we leave the city in such a situation? All the paths, all the routes going out are closed." He said, "If you have made up your mind, we will make it over there." And together they depart. And they arrive. Now Imam Hussein is giving the flags of his army, to some of his ashab, and one flag is holding in his hand. And people are asking Hussein, "Ya Abu Abdullah, who will have the honor to get this flag in his army?" This army is 70-some strong, that's all. Imam said the person who holds this flag is soon to arrive. And he sees dust far away. He says, "Look over there, someone is coming." As come to Imam said, "Go and welcome Habib." Abbas and Ali Akbar step forward, right? Walking towards that person on the horse, and Habib notices Ali Akbar coming. He jumps down from his horse. "I dare not be sitting on a horse when the grandson of Rasulullah, who looks like the face of Rasulullah, comes to welcome me, receive me." Falls on their feet. He says, "I've come this." And he says, "What a time has come. Yo Alam Nabi, Yo Alam Nabi, Ya Alam Nabi." came to Imam Hussain and said, what is time has come for Al-Rasul, oh Hussain, you have been surrounded by all these enemies. He was just expressing this when some Ali Akbar came to Imam Hussain, can I pass a message from Sayyidati Zainab to Habib ibn Mazahir? Imam said, go ahead. He said, Habib, you are fortunate, Zainab is sending her salam to you. He picks up the sand from the ground and started throwing on his head, just as he used to do in love of Imam Hussain. Now he's doing it in such humility. He's saying that how is it possible that the daughter of Ali and Murtaza would send her salam to a person like me? Now, the night of Ashura, Habib hears Zainab talking to Sayyid al-Shuhada and saying, brother, have you tested your companions? What if when the battle starts, they all leave us in the middle of all this? Imam said, I've tested them. I've seen them. They love that more than a child loves the breast of her mother. But Habib hears this, goes to the Ashab. He says, the daughter of Ali and Murtaza is not very sure about our commitment and our loyalty. Let's go and announce our commitment to this family. And so the Ansar came out of their camps. Abu al-Fazl saw them coming. He stepped forward. Habib said, Abu al-Fazl, oh Abbas, this is not for you all. This is for us. Our time to show our love and our loyalty. They come before the tent of Sayyidatuna Zainab, Salamullah alayha. They stand over and say, oh Allah Rasul, oh family of the Holy Prophet of Allah, these are your slaves with swords in their hands and spears in their hands, on their throats and on their chest. If you order us, we will kill ourselves right now. You will not find us faltering tomorrow. You will not find us deserting or leaving you. This is the time when they said that some of the women from the camp, they started crying and said, oh Ansar of Abi Abdullah, the family of your Prophet has been surrounded by enemies. Tomorrow we trust you that you will stay by your Imam. Allah la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. Saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayyam qadabin qadabin. Allahumma ajjil li waliyika al-fadl. Allahumma ajjil li waliyika. Allahumma ajjil li waliyika. Allahumma qdi hawaij al-mu'minina wal-mu'minat. اللهم اشف كل مريض اللهم اغفر لكل مريض اللهم اشف كل مريض جاه محمد. يا حسين.